All right. Welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're gonna be taking a look at Colombia and its automotive landscape.
Ooh.
So we're using some recent data from Fleet Mobility today. We've got kind of an economic snapshot of Colombia. We've got some data on vehicle registrations and production numbers. So, yeah, I think this is going to be really fascinating.
I think so too, because when I think of Colombia, I don't really, I have some ideas about their economy, but not really about their automotive landscape.
Yeah, so it should be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig in.
Okay, so let's jump right in. I guess we'll start with the economic picture of Colombia. Talking about population of 53.1 million people.
Wow.
Which is larger than California and Texas combined.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, so it's a pretty sizable country. But their GDP per capita is only around $6,949.
Oh, okay. So which
relatively low.
Yeah, it is relatively low compared to some of its neighbors in the region. And then we've got an inflation rate of 5.2% and an unemployment rate of 8.2%.
I guess that really does set the stage for, I think, understanding their automotive market.
Yeah.
How are people going to behave as consumers? And what kind of vehicle choices might they make, given those factors?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. So I guess that brings us to kind of the vehicle fleet data.
Okay.
And I think this was really interesting. There are 11.6 million motorcycles.
Wow.
Registered in Colombia versus 7.3 million automobiles.
Okay, so motorcycles are king in Colombia?
Yeah, they are. Way more motorcycles.
That's really interesting.
Is that affordability? Is that something to do with the urban density? Or maybe even the terrain in some parts of the country?
I think it's probably a mix of all of those things.
That's gotta be.
But yeah, it's definitely interesting. Okay, so let's move on to brands.
Okay.
So in 2024, Toyota was still holding on to the top spot.
Okay.
But here's a really interesting piece of information. Kia broke into the top 3.
Oh, wow.
With a 54% growth.
Wow.
Year over year.
What's driving that?
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if Kia is really focusing on fuel efficient models.
Yeah.
Given the economic climate in Colombia, people are probably talking about value. And Kia seems to be, hitting the mark there. On the other hand, we have Chevrolet, who is facing some headwinds.
Yeah, okay.
Their sales were down almost 18%.
Oh, wow.
And this kind of leads into the next point. They're actually shutting down manufacturing.
Oh, wow.
In Colombia.
Interesting. So
what happens?
Right.
A major player like Chevrolet.
It's going to open up some opportunities for other brands.
I mean, this could be a really interesting opportunity for maybe some of the Chinese automakers that have been investing, heavily in the region.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so looking at Acton, the best-selling models.
Okay.
It's really no surprise that SUVs are dominating.
Of course. The Mazda CX-30 and the Toyota Corolla Cross are leading the charge.
So, I mean, that fits with the global trend, right?
Yeah.
SUVs are popular everywhere, but I think there's something, maybe, a little bit more to it in Colombia.
Right.
I'm thinking about the terrain. They have such a diverse geography.
Right.
And I think, SUVs just offer that practicality, to be able to handle all those different kinds of driving conditions.
Plus, there's always that status symbol aspect of SUVs.
For sure.
Which, can be influential in any market, really. Okay, let's talk about something really practical for a second. Fuel costs.
Yeah.
That plays a huge role in car ownership in general. And in Colombia, gasoline is running about 93 cents a liter. Diesel's a bit cheaper, though, at 61 cents a liter.
Yeah.
I bet that really influences what kind of engines people are choosing, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Diesel engines are famous for their fuel efficiency. And so that kind of price difference, it makes a big difference for consumers, especially if you're talking about commercial vehicles and things like that.
Right. And just for context, electricity costs about 21 to 22 cents per kilowatt hour. So, not a huge factor for most people right now with so few EVs on the road.
Right.
But it's something to watch in the future, for sure.
For sure. If EV adoption picks up electricity prices, they're going to become a much bigger part of that total cost of ownership.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about XEVs.
Okay.
Adoption in Colombia is still very low.
Really?
Only about 50,000 out of almost 19 million vehicles.
That's interesting because, globally we're seeing EVs really gain traction.
Right.
So I wonder.
Consider the fact that even though fuel and electricity costs are lower than in many developed countries, they're still significant expenses.
For sure.
For a lot of Colombians.
And I think that, that economic factor might be pushing people towards those motorcycles and making EVs, less attractive for now.
Okay. So it's interesting. We've got this country that has some economic challenges.
Right.
They've got this love affair with SUVs. So what? What does the future hold for personal transportation in Colombia?
Yeah. I mean, are they going to follow global trends?
Right.
Or are they going to forge their own unique path?
All right. Well, this has been a really interesting deep dive.
Yeah, I think we just scratched the surface.
I think it did.
It's definitely a market to watch.
But yeah, I think we'll leave it there for now.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Thanks for having me.
I hope this has given you a solid understanding of the dynamics at play in Colombia's automotive market. And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
See you later.
Fleet Mobility Today.